Alright, peace be upon you, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Now, in today's video, I just want to speak about why the Black Lives Matter or BLM movement is for hypocrites, and why pretty much everybody I see in that movement who supports that movement, they're hypocritical. Now, to preface this, I'm going to say I don't have a racist bone in my body. My wife is black, okay? I love black people. I love them so much that I married one, okay? So you can't use the racist card on me. I know that's one of their most favorite tactics to deploy against people who criticize their hypocritical false movement. But just to get that out of the way, I'm not racist. I'm married to a black person. And listen, if somebody doesn't like a black person for their skin color, they're not going to like me either, okay? If there was some white racist out there who didn't like a black person, they're not going to like me either, okay? I'm brown just like you, but that's a separate issue. But what I was saying, so why is BLM a hypocritical movement? So this is something that many people have pointed out before, and I'm just going to point it out myself. They seem to only be interested in the plight of black people. They seem to only care about the racism that black people suffer. And I don't deny that black people get racism, they get profiled. I think especially in America, I'm a Canadian, but especially in America, I do think that certain cops, they might profile them or check them out. I get that 100%. But why are they not? So what they'll do is they will cry about, and I'm not exonerating or justifying what happened in those times, but they'll cry about what happened in the 1800s and 1900s, slavery, discriminations, stuff that they didn't even go through. The blacks alive today, African Americans alive today, or even African Canadians, they kind of involve themselves in the Black Lives Matter movement too. A lot of Nigerian, Ghanaian, born and raised in the West, they identify with that movement. But they will cry about a slavery that they themselves have never went through, which I am not justifying. Yet at the same time, there is a world of slavery going on right now underneath our noses with a specific group of people. And of course, I'm talking about Indians, Deceit people in general. What is going on in Canada and the West, but especially Canada? And I'm talking about really the BLM supporters in Canada, not African Americans, but there's hypocrisy there too because they're not speaking out on this. However, what's going on, especially in Canada, but in America, lots of places, the use and abuse of foreign workers. You are seeing slavery go on right now underneath your noses. These foreign workers, they are exploited to no end. When you go to any Tim Hortons, you go to a grocery store, convenience store, and it's just filled with Desi people, Indian people working, there's a reason why these companies are hiring them. It's because when they come here on this foreign work status, they have no rights at all. They're not entitled to any overtime pay. They will take the crappiest shifts. They will take the most abuse from their bosses. They have no demands. They have no way of recourse. They cost a lot less, and they essentially get no work standards at all. And you're seeing this go on right now. This is modern slavery. People are being separated based on lies. These recruitment agencies back home in Punjab and India, they lie. And they're connected with Canada. They lie to these people and teach them false dreams that, oh, it's easy to get your PR, your permanent residence. And these people come here. Tell me, is that not slavery? You are going across an entire ocean, moving internationally, being separated from everything you knew, from your family, from your friends, into a foreign land with foreign people, with no rights, and essentially your only purpose is just to work, to be a cog in the machine with no respect and dignity at all. This is going on right now. Where are the BLM guys speaking out on that? Where are they? I don't see it at all. And even we can just go into the general stigma around Desi people, how awful our reputation is, and this is just promoted by the culture. They'll say, I don't know, that we're stinky and weird and creepy. And by the way, I don't get the worst of this. I'm not Indian. I'm Pakistani, and I'm born and raised in Canada. I don't have an accent. I get not nearly as much as people who have an accent, who are fresh off the boat. These people experience tons of racism. I mean, the reputation, what do we all have? That we're stinky and ugly and hairy and weird and creepy, and we like to, God forbid, prey on young girls, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, message them on Facebook. That's the kind of reputation we have. You see the way the media has presented us. We're just these creepy, weird, nerdy, socially awkward troglodytes, right? If this, let's just put this in the reverse. Let's turn this around. If this was a black person being portrayed in that way, let's say some show became viral. What's a viral show? I don't know. I don't watch any TV. Squid Game, okay? I don't know anything about Squid Game, but let's say there was a new season or new installment of Squid Game and they introduced a new character, and he was just your stereotypical ghetto degenerate black guy. You're walking with his pants down low and you're talking in a certain way and hitting on girls and being a menace to society. There would be outcry, uproar, how terrible this is. This is a horrible misrepresentation. You're perpetuating a negative stereotype. But it's okay to do that with Desi people. It's okay when slavery is happening against Desi people. Even if you go to these videos, go, and for my American viewers, UK viewers, I think UK is suffering from this problem as well. A lot of international foreign workers. I'm not sure how it is over there, but I know there's a lot of foreigners coming over there. America's borders are quite tight, but Canada's is open. They like bringing in these foreign slaves. But either way, if you go into these, just watch these videos that talk about this problem of the job market and foreign workers taking all the entry-level jobs. It's not teenagers and 20-year-olds working in the superstores, in the convenience stores. It's Indians. And the reason for that is a government policy, making it easier for employees or employers to hire them. They cost less. If you go in the comment section of those videos, you will see so many racist things being said. And the thing is, what they don't, and you see racist comments, they'll be calling them bajits. And for those of you who don't know, I get called bajits in my comment section by people. Bajit is basically the N-word for Desi people, okay? And you'll see they'll call them jeets and bajits and using all these derogatory terms. And you'll see comments like that. They will have 50 likes, 100 likes, 150, 200 likes. And what they don't understand is that your problem is not the Indian people. They're not the Desi people. Just like you, they are trying their best to provide for their families back home. You don't understand. This Bajit that you're talking about, you're using basically the N-word for Desi people, but this Bajit you're looking at with the turban on, you think it looks kind of funny, he's got a funny accent. That guy's got a mom back home. He's got a dad back home. He's got 5 sisters and 3 brothers, and they're counting on him, and he's trying to send money over just to help them out. He has a family. He's not the problem. He's trying to provide for himself and his family, just like you are trying to provide for yourself and your family. Both of you are in the same boat, struggling to make a way in this rather difficult world. The issue is this government policy of allowing the exploitation of foreigners based on lies. People from Punjab, people from Pakistan, people from Bangladesh, people from Sri Lanka. A lot of I'm seeing in Canada, South Indians as well, Tamils and what's the other, Malayalam speaking people, just exploiting foreign workers. Filipinos are going through it as well. Chinese face a lot of racism, and that's my problem with the BLM movement. They are not at all sensitive to the plight of any other race other than their own, when other races suffer from a great amount of racism and they don't even complain about it. I'm just the one voicing it out right now. They just stay silent and they take it. You say, oh, those effing Indians, they don't know how to drive, they're ruining our roads, and this is just stereotyping all of us. This is how it goes. And even so, they won't even call out or speak about the injustice of racism towards other brown people. We are brown people like you African Americans or Africans. We are brown. It's just our hair is silky and yours is nappy, right? But and if they won't speak about the racism that other people who look somewhat like them, they have the same skin color as them. You look at these South Indians, they're every bit as dark and as quote-unquote black as a black person. They won't speak out on that. They will never speak out on the racism that white people go through. They go through so much stuff. I mean, you'll get groups that form in schools and community centers, an Igbo, for those of you who don't know Igbo, it's a tribe in Nigeria. Igbo Association, Nigerian Association, I don't know, Hispanics Association, and people will just say, and to promote Hispanic culture and heritage, or Igbo culture and heritage, and remembering where they came from, and everyone will say, hey, yeah, that's great. And I don't have a problem with that. That's fine if you want to preserve your heritage, whatever. Who cares? But if white people do that, if some white people's association, this is the outcry would be unimaginable. Oh, you racist and da da da. It's always a double standard, and they're not, like I said, they are not sensitive towards the racism that other races go through. And that's why I don't care for BLM. I never cared for BLM. It's a hypocritical movement, and it was made by the ruling elite to agitate and promote certain agendas, specifically a civil war, collapse in America, collapse in Western society. This is an owned and controlled hypocritical movement, and these are low-key racist, let's be real. I've dealt with, not BLM, but Hebrew Israelite racism, people who don't want to talk to me, they don't want to deal with me, they don't want to talk about God and the Bible because I'm not one of the chosen ones, the children of Israel. In their eyes, that means blacks, Native Americans, and Latinos. All of this stuff, it's low-key pent-up racism that they're taking out on people, but they're projecting. They're calling everyone else racist when really they're the most racist people that I've ever seen. And all of this racial talk, it comes back down to that old lie which Satan told our father Adam, or he told it to God, and this was about our father Adam, where he said, I am better. This is in the Quran. I am better than him. I'm not going to lower myself to Adam because I am better than him. And you see this, whether you're talking about white racists or black BLM racists, it's I am better than he. I am better than him. Appreciate me. I am better. That mentality is really the root of all of these racial issues. And again, I don't have a racial bone in my body. Pretty much every single one of my friends is a different race than me. I don't have really any friends, maybe one same race as me, Pakistani, Deceit. Other than that, all of them, I have a multinational, international community here. My wife is mixed race, half Nigerian, half Sicilian. I look at people's character, I really do. And I don't care about what's going on here, I care about what's in the heart. Because that is the foundation and basis for a real bond. And I want to be with people who encourage me to draw closer to God, to do more righteous deeds, who inspire me, who uplift me, not necessarily people who look like me, but you don't see this with the BLM. They're just like a new neo-Nazi group, neo-Nazis but for black people. And that's why I'll never join it. That's why I don't care for it. They're just hypocrites. There's slavery going on right now underneath their noses, and they're not going to call it out. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's really all I got to say on the matter. I hope this talk was a blessing. And yeah, peace to you. Remember, deceit abounds, so keep your eyes wide open. Peace out. Peace and blessings in the name of the Most High, viewer. My name is Walid Naeem, and I am a zealous submitter to the one true God, the creator of all mankind. Do you notice something wrong with the world? Something strange? Despite us having a church, synagogue, and mosque in every neighborhood, how has this entire Western civilization fallen into abject atheism, nihilism, and savagery? Why does life just seem so dull, so meaningless, and so devoid of anything real in the Occidental world? Despite the ubiquitous presence of these religious institutions, why are our so-called Muslim sons in large numbers drinking, smoking, partying, and chasing after women, with no seeming desire to do anything more with their life other than satisfy their base pleasures, when God has commanded them to be clean, righteous, and responsible leaders of their community? And why are our hijabi so-called Muslim daughters walking around with tight jeans that reveal their figure, with TikTok accounts posting semi-provocative, self-absorbed videos of themselves online for the world to see, when God has commanded them to lengthen their garments and be modest in their mannerisms? What has happened here? These young men and women are supposed to be making themselves right before God, while raising the next generation of ardent defenders of the holy faith. But it seems that Islam features no more in their lives other than a scarf on their head, a Friday fidgeting around in the mosque when their parents force them to go against their will, or a decorative hanger in their car. At this rate, if God allows us to continue going down the road it is, then Islam and the Quran will become pretty much non-existent in the lives of most of our descendants, if it wasn't already non-existent now. If we do not take a stand soon, in a few generations our children's children will likely be indistinguishable from the secular West. Is that the kind of world we want to live in? Our kids to live in? A world practically devoid of the remembrance of the one God and all things sane? I obviously can't speak for you, but for my own self, I can personally say, count me out of it. I'm not going to sit here and just watch my brothers and sisters, those who claim to believe in God alone, believe in Judgment Day, His prophets and angels, and all the other aspects of this holy creed, get duped into going to hell. I'm not going to let this happen without at least something of an effort on my end to reroute this dark trajectory. So, again, how in the world do we end up here? There is a mosque in practically every neighborhood in the West, and no shortage of donations that get dropped in their boxes. They have had lots of funding, lots of time, and unquestioning support from their respective congregations, yet somehow have been run over by the secular atheist. All of their so-called Muslim children go to the atheist, secular public schools for most of their week to be taught beliefs that are completely incompatible with the Quran. And we wonder why they have ended up the way they are. If these houses, and by these houses I mean the mosques, were truly of God, that were doing everything right, then why would our Lord let them get so decisively trampled upon by their enemies? Why do the wicked have all of the reins of power here? Clearly, something is not adding up. Well, it is my thesis here today that the vast majority of mosques that exist in this world today have lost their way and follow a religion which is completely foreign to the Quran. This is why they have failed so miserably in the West, and it seems that God has forgotten them. In truth, the real reason behind their shortcoming is that they, and many of us, have forgotten God Himself, which is why He has left us here collecting our bitter receipts. So, what are my exact criticisms of the mosques today? As a Muslim and a man committed to the truth above all else, what are my personal gripes with their institution, which claims to be for God? The first glaring problem I can think of is that the majority of people who call themselves Muslim have allied themselves with a body of literature that is foreign to the Word of God, treating it equal to, and in fact above, the Quran itself. Of course, I am talking about the Hadith. Listen, the facts are this. There is no justification within the Quran which tells us to follow this Hadith stuff, which came hundreds of years after the Prophet Muhammad died, and therefore he could have had no ability to oversee what people have said about him and determine if it is true or false. It is now becoming crystal clear, especially in the last 10 to 20 years, that many things that have been ascribed to him in their most quote-unquote authoritative texts, which they call their Sahih Hadiths, are forgeries that directly contradict God's final revelation. To take these words of men, i.e. the Hadith, and hold them to be equally authoritative to the words of God would be breaking the first and most important commandment, which is to worship God alone, making no equals with Him. To say that these supposed words of Muhammad, which are not even Muhammad's own words, but simply very doubtful rumors about what people who existed hundreds of years after him say he said, that have been decided upon by the scholars as authoritative, holds equal, or in fact any weight in our faith comparable to the verbatim words of God Himself, the Holy Quran, is idolatry. You are exalting man's words to the status of divinity, which should only be given to God's words. Nothing comes even close to the Quran, because God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, is its author. This includes the Hadith too, which pales in comparison and is superfluous to the glorious Quran. If you are interested in seeing a full refutation of the Hadith, you may watch my video titled A Defense of Prophet Muhammad, David Wood and Hadith Exposed, which is linked below. In it, along with refuting and putting in his place the worst opponent of Islam on the internet, Mr. David Wood, I also expose how the Hadith is completely contradictory to the Quran and the source of much of the Muslim world's problems. It is a 2-hour-long documentary where I seek to demonstrate the true character of Muhammad in the Quran, defending his history and personality with primary source quotations. I clear the last prophet of God's name from the people who have tarnished his reputation the most, which are certain types of Christians, and, sad to say, Hadith-following Muslims, which have said many terrible things about him. No, Muhammad was not a money-hungry, tyrannical warlord who married a 6-year-old girl. He was a shy, humble, meek man who married adult women, had compassion for even his worst enemies, and oftentimes had a tough time even standing up for himself out of fear of hurting other people's feelings. This is all demonstrated in detail in my video. Once again, the link for that will be in the description under the tab, The True Character of Muhammad in the Quran. So that is the first problem with the mosques, the reason for which I feel they have been forsaken by God, their adoption of an apostate literature which contradicts their foundational scripture. The second point of contention I have with many of the mosques is their seeming unwillingness to say anything controversial which may make them face persecution from their government. The fact that 9/11 was not only an inside job, but the fact that no planes hit the Twin Towers on that day, and the whole charade was a hoax designed by the governments of the world to forever frame the Muslim people as terrorists and justify invasions in our countries, should be taught to every man, woman, and child. This great fraud of the September attacks has left such a lasting, enduring reputation on every brown person and Muslim in general that it should be discussed in every mosque. Our people are not responsible for that crime, but it was the governments of the world who carried out that plot and framed us for it. 9/11 is just only one small example, though. There are many, many other quote-unquote conspiracy theories, which are really just conspiracy facts, avoided by the mosques due to their controversy, like the fact that the monetary system in the West is an ungodly scam based on usury, the fact that the so-called healthcare system is a predatory empire which doesn't try to cure anybody, but instead makes money off of human suffering, the fact that sodomite propaganda is being promoted to the masses, including our children, and the fact that the thing which I will call the C-19er, to avoid censorship, was a hoax perpetrated by the powers that be to greatly expand their police state, censorship incentives, and surveillance systems worldwide in order to create their new world order, and much more. These governments that have occupied our lands are de facto terrorist regimes, and the mosques seem to say nothing of it. They appear to be more concerned with not being labeled extremists while they live their comfortable, well-funded lives, avoiding topics that are hard to deal with due to the abject persecution they bring. That is my second problem with them. They're at the very least lack of awareness, or if not, perhaps lack of willingness to address the real geopolitical situation going on in the world. And lastly, my third trouble with the mainstream mosques, which can also be put into the category of conspiracy facts, is their complete ignorance on the true nature of the earth. It may sound as a shock to you, my viewer, that the Quran, the Bible, and in fact all of the ancient scriptures teach the earth is flat and stationary. This is the only model of the world which is compatible with those texts and also scientifically provable. This flat earth conspiracy, which should really be called the globe earth conspiracy, is one of the biggest lies of the modern world, we are told, and goes in line with what I said earlier about the endemic corruption of the governments of the world. Everything you have been told about where you live is a fabrication, and the space agencies are a shameless hoax. For a fully detailed presentation on the subject of flat earth, where I demonstrate the science, the history, the philosophy, the verses in the Bible and Quran proving it, and much more, you can read my book titled The Flat Earth Manifesto, which is linked in the description. This work runs to nearly 1,200 pages and is practically a textbook on not only the topic of flat earth, but the subject of physics proper, and I expose the biggest fraudulent religion of the West, which is science worship, otherwise known as scientism. As with all of my work, it too is available for free. No, you do not live on a pathetic speck of dust spinning around in the middle of nowhere in space. You live in a brilliant, intelligently designed terrarium created by God and are at the center of the universe. Again, to learn more, the link to the Flat Earth Manifesto will be in the description. Those right there are my three biggest scores against the mosques of today. There are more points I could bring up, but these are the major ones. These are the controversies which have estranged me from the rest of the so-called Muslim world. Believe me when I say that I would love to join them, and that it hurts me so deeply that I have to pit myself up against the very institution I was born and raised in, the mosques I attended from childhood, whose carpets upon which I walked, stood, prayed, and listened to the preaching in my earliest years. But that is the price to pay for the truth. My commitment to God and what is right is more important than my emotional attachments to a place that was once dear to my heart. Simply put, this is why I think God has forsaken us. This is why I think that the mosques have been steamrolled by the secular atheist. It is because most of us have abandoned the word of God, neglected preaching the truth, and instead chosen comfort over courageous action. That is my thesis to why this great falling away in the West has taken place. If this sounds shocking to you, if it sounds so unbelievable that the majority of the so-called Muslim world could be deceived so badly, then I simply have these verses in the Quran to show you. In the name of God, the Almighty and the Merciful. Chapter 6, verse 116. And if thou obey most of those upon the earth, they will lead thee astray from the path of God. They follow only assumption, and they are only guessing. Chapter 25, verse 30. And the messenger will say, O my Lord, my people took this Quran as a thing abandoned. God has really predicted this a millennia ago. He knew that the people who follow what is really right are few and far between, that the majority of men and women are led astray, and the people who claim to love Muhammad the most, i.e. mainstream Muslims, would abandon the glorious Quran. God has revealed to us 1,000 years ago that this all would be the case. It is my mission, therefore, by the will of God, to band together with like-minded believers who have understood the truth and work together to build a new institution from the ground up, founded upon prudent fear. We need to start fresh, start anew. We need to build a new mosque where people can hear the unfiltered preaching from the Quran alone, where men and women can get married, where children can play and be educated in the truth, and where the name of the Most High God, without any associate partners, can be remembered. We need a group of highly dedicated men who will raise and defend this institution with their own hands if need be, and go out into the world warning people of the punishment of God, bearing witness to the truth of his oneness. That is my mission, my viewer. If you found that this mission of mine has touched your heart and is something you want to get involved with, then feel free to contact me in the email below. I am located in Ontario, Canada, and I'm looking forward to form a community with like-minded believers who want to contribute to this great cause. I am neither a nationalist nor racially biased. If you follow the Quran alone and believe in the truth, then as far as I'm concerned, you are my brother in the faith. I prefer you over someone of my own kindred who denies God and commits corruption in the earth. My loyalties are primarily ideological, not racial. Remember, my viewer, that this life is short. Everything we do and don't do is recorded by God and will either bear witness for us or against us on the day of judgment. Hell is eternal, and I do not know about you, but as for me, I want to meet my Creator in the best state possible. I want to spend my life struggling to build up my people, the true Muslims, so that God may be pleased with me on that day. If you are interested in that, then feel free to join me. If not, then find something else good to do which will prepare you for your appointment with the Most High. That is where we are all going anyway. With that being said, I say peace and God bless to all of you good people. Take care, everyone.